Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another BuzzZ online event. Today we are joined by Stefano Zamparo, and we are going to discuss a bit more about the role of young people in today's media landscape and about how young voices are actually shaping the narrative all across Europe. So, Stefano, maybe it's best if you introduce yourself a bit to our audience so we get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you very much for invitation, Dragos. I'm really happy to be here. I'm reached the 30, I'm a young journalist, and since 2 weeks ago, I was managing the European Youth Press as an executive board member, where we created a lot of contents and worship for improvement digital journalism about you in all about around Europe with our member organization. And so if you want to have a look at the organization, I also am a journalist in the real life and I'm currently working at the European Parliament in DG Finance. I'm currently attending the Schumann traineeship. And what to add more, I have background in communication and in journalism, of course, and project management, for European projects.
Thank you so much. So it's quite a diverse portfolio, but also you said you're quite involved with journalism in general. So how did this journey begin for you?
It's begin probably when I was a child. I was attracted by the news that I am listening through the radio. Yeah, at that time I was listening to radio more than today, but it's a media that I really like, and I think that is nowadays also have a lot of possibility to be implemented. Uh, by the way, I'm curious, and probably is my curiosity that take me aw- aware about this path in journalism, and I really would like to know everything, and I really want to go deeply to every news, and I would like to inform the other about it. So that's basically the journal. What a good journalist, we can say, should do. Also searching for the truth, but the truth sometimes is difficult, and we can talk for maybe for hours and hours about what is truth. Are you agree, Dragus?
Mhm. I do, and I also wanted to ask, I mean, is this drive for curiosity what also pushed you to join the European Youth Press?
Yeah, it, quite the same feeling as regarding my passion for journalism. I would like to be part of an organization that create more space, a safe space to talk about journalism and to create also new opportunity for young journalists. And and because it's important to raise this thematic also on European level, especially in this year that we are facing. uh, Now, when I joined the board, it was a different area. This the TikTok was just exit, and everyone was curious about. And nowadays, it's one media normal like Instagram. So when I joined also the European Youth Press, X was called Twitter, and I use it a lot. In that period, I was reading all the news there. And nowadays, I changed my habits, probably like most of us, and because I would like to change what I have around, and I would like to give my contribution to the organization and to the advocacy for youth and youth related in media organization.
And since you've mentioned all of these changes happening in the media landscape, all of these radical reforms that took place, all of this, all of these differences that that shape the way that we communicate between one another. What would you say were the breakthrough moments that you noticed during the past years? What the moments which made you say that what was yesterday does not apply anymore today in terms of journalism, in terms of communication, media creation, and so on?
Okay, what's a broad topic? uh Probably, but I can speak for my side. As I mentioned before, we can say my journalistic life changed a lot when Twitter was sold, and in that moment, we understand that that was just a media, but was more a company than a media. And in that sense, I I was start thinking about how the different media could be shaped if they change the ownership, because at the end they are not media. It's not correct to call them media, probably because they are company, and so they're working in the business field, and they're doing their own interests, like Facebook, like Instagram. And sometimes we don't think about it. We underestimate this potential issue, and so that's, in my point of view, was something we cannot come back. Also, after that, it's coming the artificial intelligence that change everything. Uh, because take on the table the fake news. I know that you told Kozo in another podcast about the fake news, so I don't want to focus on that topic. But nowadays, with Sora, with all the artificial intelligence that can create images or videos that are quite almost real, and you have some difficult to distinguish what is real, what's not. Yeah, that's it's for of, of course one something that changed completely. uh, I was thinking, I'm thinking now if there is also something before that. Probably before was the introduction in the journalism about the platform like Instagram or Facebook to sharing news. I remember when I start working as a journalist in a local newspaper, and they just discover Facebook as a new potential channel to share their news, their event, and all. That's probably for me.
I think it's maybe interesting to also go a bit back to something that you said, which was the fact that Twitter had been sold and then purchased by its current owner. And I think it's something that we keep seeing more and more often, how these communication platforms, because essentially they are communication platforms, but also in a sense they function as media platforms, but, or at least they are leveraged by traditional media platforms in order to distribute their content, keep getting more and more centralized in terms of ownership. And we keep seeing this trend of monopoly over the social media platforms that we use. So we end up in ridiculous situations where the narrative of a specific platform can be changed algorithmically to better suit either its business interests, as it still is, but we also see it shaped in such a way in order to suit specific political interests. And it's something that I think we will have to see happen more and more and more into the future. So, how do you think this media landscape can look in such a situation when you have oligarchs who try to constantly control the narrative? And furthermore, what can we do as a society in order to ensure that there are still clean pathways for citizens to actually be involved in media creation?
Long question, but it's it's been an interesting debate about. Maybe I can start from the society. That is the one that I know better, as I'm part of the society as young individual, European one, or just as part of a manager of a youth organization. And what I saw until now and experience is, if we're talking now about youth, if we concentrate about youth, uh, I think that yeah, the youth people now are the lifeblood of the media, and they can bring new stories, new format, new languages to shaping this society. Even though we didn't see at the moment, I'm starting notice, but it's more related probably to generation. So uh, as society, we should embrace the changing. We should understand the reality. Uh, you talk about 1 second before about oligarchs that shaping the politics and use and finance their political campaign, and of course they build news for themselves. So as society, we have to be aware about this, and we should be open to listen new people, new point of view, different journal, different media. In media, we can also add the company like Facebook, yeah, Instagram, and yeah. About these, before joining, I was reading some interesting data, and I try to find it now. Yeah, of course. About yeah, the news feed shift. Okay, about we had the Reuters Institute that made a research about digital and exit every year, the digital news report 2025. So for the first time, the 60% of the people, according to the research presented by Reuters, yeah, they they prefer watching the news than reading. And so in that sense, our work as a journalist change also. The society is changing, and we have to change with it. And so also our approach to the news should be different, should be more uh, more. We have to pay more attention and be more cautious about the different videos that we can see in the different platform. I thought also the media, the newspaper will also adapt to this, creating their. Also, I notice a bit of change about this because we are focused more on the video journalism. So reporting a news from the side that is embedded in the newspaper website, and yeah, the communication is changing. By the way, uh, there was other aspect I didn't answer to your question.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, how would you see such a future in which so much of the media is, or so much of the platforms which we use to communicate are concentrated within the hands of so few individuals?
We have a classical example if we are talking about United States, no, about their media, and who their a few people have the control about all the big media news about that, we can say, selling news to the best offer, and that's not correct. it's it what it is. Okay. I'm a bit skeptic about the future that we will face, because it seems to me that we let these people have the control of the news. But if you have the control of the news, sometimes you can influence the politics, and that's we know for sure from history. That's a lesson that we learn during the history. uh, I think also the Europe in this particular case could play um, a crucial role. In particular, I think that in August 2025, it was released, went into the application, the European Media Freedom Act. That was one priority of the Commission, and I think that in this sense, Europe could create like a sort of a shield about uh, different media newspaper company. Uh, it, Nowadays it's a mix. It shouldn't be a mix, in my opinion. And so, in that sense, European Union could be like one point where the people can look at it and find for freedom and freedom press, and yeah, that's practically my vision on that. We will see in the future. So I'm confident that here in Europe, beside the different report that we have on freedom, the freedom of speech and the media freedom in Europe, that's is true. Also talking about Italy, that is the country where I'm from, and I notice a completely shift in the way the news are presented. So different aspect about this, and okay, I I'm confident for the future in Europe, but we have to work. We have to be conscious. You know what happened also to to a young journalist at the European Parliament when he raised a question about the double standard. And that's probably show us how how thin is the border.
It's a very, very thin line, and I think it's extremely worrying if we look at this downturn that we keep on seeing for the past years already. Although, in a sense, I can understand your argument regarding this culture that we have cultivated throughout the centuries about freedom of expression. It's also important to realize that this is not necessarily a given. It's something that we need to protect. It's something that we need to take active steps to protect. And it might not always be in the interest of the ruling classes to protect these freedoms. So it's also up to us to actually take active measures in order to ensure that we can still profess, we can still express ourselves freely, we can still communicate freely without any sort of barriers. So it's a balancing act that we are playing after all.
Yeah, uh, true. And what regarding these to add one point, it's uh, the fact that after the what happened to this young journalist that raised this question, a lot of other journalists around Europe raised the same question. So there is a sort of sense of unity in Europe that uh, take care about what is journalism and the culture that we created. But of course, we have to defend. We have to push the all all the law and all that we created and the one that we will have to create also, like with the AI Act. Also, we have to consider that we have also this shield. And what about you? And what about your point of view about which is your idea of future with the oligarchs and politics in the news?
I think we are not necessarily on the best path right now. I would say that what we've seen for quite a long time in terms of foresight was passivity. We always, as a society, assumed that it was constantly going to get better. And not only us as citizens, but also decision makers fell into the same pitfall, assuming that progress is a given, is something that happens naturally and by itself. Which I think we start seeing that that's not necessarily the case. And also, when you as a decision maker assume that progress takes place naturally, then the people who do not see this progress, so the people from marginalized communities, from disadvantaged backgrounds, and so on, the people who do not see this progress at some point will be in a point of disagreement with you as a decision maker, because you, on one hand, see economical progress as a decision maker, you see growth in terms of GDP, you see investment in Europe, you see sprawling arts and culture space and so on. But a person who is from a disadvantaged background cannot in any way enjoy these sorts of progresses that were made. So what happened is you create this sort of a disconnect. On one hand, an expectation of endless progress that happens by itself, and you as a decision maker don't need to be proactive, but rather preserve the status quo. And on the other hand, a growing group of the population which starts seeing that this progress that happens on paper does not necessarily translate into their day-to-day life. With this disconnect, it's much easier to exploit already existing frustrations. And I think this is something that we see in terms of how foreign intervention in Europe and how hybrid warfare in Europe is done, because it's specifically exploiting the narratives which touch the people closest to their heart and which very heavily rely on their values and on their well-being. So it's exploiting that, first of all. Second of all, I think we are also seeing people from the business environment or people from let's say this oligarchic class who also exploit this, because obviously when you have frustration towards the centralized decision making level, you can always push for less regulation because the average citizen is prone to agreeing with this sort of idea if they do not trust the central decision makers. So it's a sort of a perfect storm. And I tend to believe that, broadly speaking, I'm quite of an optimist. But we are facing a lot of challenges right now in terms of how Europe is going in general. It's and I'm sure you've also heard this term used by Philip Schulmeister during the Youth Network event. It's a polycrisis. I really want to steal this word because I feel it describes everything very well. It's a polycrisis. It has multiple dimensions and it benefits a lot of different actors, which to some extent were kept at a distance by Europe up to this point.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you were talking, I just talked about the same word that we listened some days ago, and yeah, that's true. Probably we underestimate the challenge that we also I consider we as a journalist, as a young people working in the media field, uh, regarding the risk about our work and regarding the media freedom and we can say the different value related to democracy and also because that is in my opinion related to precarious job, low pay if you consider that around Europe we have different salaries and different cost of lives, and but the cost of lives is still increasing I wouldn't say every month, that because it's an exaggeration, of course, but yeah, it's increased, and it is increasing. Um, and One other things regarding the youth and the media probably is the lack of mentorship, or the problem is that we are facing new challenges that before doesn't didn't exist. So there is no one who can teach us how to go to, and how to avoid to had a crash, or how uh, to behave in this situation. Uh, and for that, I would like to stress the importance of youth and the way they produce the content, and how the new format that they are taking on, they put on the table, because we are talking also about value, but the value more or less we can keep it for granted. We can also have to improve it, but we have it. uh, yeah, but a question that I make for you, just to arrive to the conclusion of our podcast, is uh, how what we talk about the um, risk, so the precarity, and how it affect the young journalist's ability to contribute to the work, to their work, and to the society.
I mean, I think it's also a bit worth mentioning about the psychological pressure that you can feel as a young journalist in this sort of climate. Because obviously, you have the legislative pressure, you have the pressure from different groups of interest and so on. But also the psychological pressure, because it's important to not forget that on this continent, you still have cases of journalists being attacked physically for the work that they are doing. So it's a difficult environment to operate in, I'd say, as a young journalist. It's uh, it's filled with a lot of unwelcoming situations, and I think it can be very discouraging, especially if you're at the beginning of your career. But I think it's also important to note the positive dimension in a sense. Young people are more and more represented in media, which is very important because the youth perspective has been quite marginalized, historically speaking, in the media environment. And we are talking about young people who are digital natives. They are familiar with the way that these platforms and these technologies operate since the day they were born. So, in a sense, I think they are also bringing a revolution in terms of mentality into what it means to be a content creator, to be a journalist, what it means to actually be a bridge between your community, your audience, and what's happening on the ground. Because one of the big benefits of these platforms and of the way that journalism takes shape today is specifically the fact that access to information has been significantly democratized. You can create your own personal platform out of nothing and have an audience which is specifically tailored to your profile as a journalist or as a content creator. Which, on one hand, yes, I think it might be an issue that in this sort of crisis situation, to not have these central media hubs towards which to converge in order to get accurate information. But also on the other side, I think it's good that we are finally breaking out of the bubble of the big media conglomerates and also getting to smaller issues which take place at the local level. So we somehow have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I'm happy that you are so optimistic about that path that we have found. I agree with you that we need more press hub, but probably also youth press up. Uh, and we have to find a way to connect generation. Also, that's a something that to works good. We have to connect the different generation, the language of the different generation. We should be able to do a proper mentorship from the old to the new generation, and also to the new generation to the old generation, because it's both way, and it is not one direction, this kind of communication. So we have to learn each other. We have, of course, to be more conscious about AI and and fake news, but I don't want to come back on this. And yeah, that's probably our mm, the path that also I imagine in the near future.
And I think this is the perfect takeaway that we can end this with, namely being more conscious about our actions, about what's happening around us, about the way that we interact with media, and also about why we keep engaging with certain messages, with certain narratives, and so on. I think it's important to, in this era of constant engagement with different sorts of
Hmm.
information for them, I think it's important to maintain this idea of consciousness, of trying to understand why you are seeing what you are seeing. And I think it's a very good note to slowly end our conversation on. And I deeply appreciated the fact that we had this opportunity to have a chat together. And I look
Yeah,
forward to a future one.
me as well. And probably also to write of disconnect as well. And yeah, because we are constantly bombing by news, and that the overwork of overwhelm of news, it's not a good option. But also we have to be aware that the content that we are looking into the platform, like our social media, that it is the one that we are looking for. Maybe after in the comment I can post some research also, because there was one about last December about the think tank of the European Parliament, that I remember that could be interesting to eventually continue the discussion and in the comment, so we can keep it this for later. Yeah, but the most important things is to be aware about what is around us, and listen to different we can say different influencer, because in this case it will open another topic that maybe in another yeah, in another podcast. Thank you, Dragos.
Stefano, thank you so much. And to our audience also, thank you so much for joining us for this online event. And we look forward to seeing you soon. So have a wonderful evening and goodbye.
Goodbye.